ChatGPT. You've heard that it can write essays, explain complex concepts well, correct your spelling and grammatical mistakes, and even debug computer code. But how well can ChatGPT perform on a standardized test like the GRE? To look beyond the hype and find out how intelligent ChatGPT's AI is, I put ChatGPT on the chopping block, giving it real GRE practice questions, similar in difficulty to what you'll find if you sat for the GRE exam. And let me just say that the results will surprise you. Hey, it's Chuki here from sojournerscholar.com. In this video, you will find out just how well you'd perform on the GRE if you had access to ChatGPT. In other words, will you score high enough on the GRE exam to get into Harvard? And since the odds are close to zero that you will have access to ChatGPT during any standardized test, I'm going to show you several use cases where ChatGPT could be a good tool to have in your toolbox as you prepare for the GRE exam. Now, generally speaking, the concepts tested on the GRE are pretty simple. Simple in the sense that the math and reading skills learned in high school is sufficient to attempt any GRE question. However, the questions are designed to be tricky, such that if you were to use the conventional way of solving many of these questions, you will not arrive at the right answers in the limited amount of time you have on the exam. So to kick things off, let's start with a type of question on the quantitative reasoning measure of the GRE called a quantitative comparison question. Now, these types of questions test your ability to compare two quantities and decipher what is always true about these two quantities. Now, in this example, I know that answer choice C is the correct answer, so let's see what ChatGPT has to say. And that's an easy win for ChatGPT, which is pretty impressive as the difficulty level of this question is slightly above average. Now, next, I'm going to give ChatGPT a multiple answer question type from the quant section of the GRE. And this one is going to be a geometry question presented without any illustrations. And in this example, I know that the correct answer choice lies between 112 to 1/4 square feet. So let's see what ChatGPT has to say. Now, that was pretty good, but as you can see, it solved this question by taking a slightly longer path. A faster way would be to simply multiply 4 inches and 3 inches to get the lower bound in square feet, and multiplying 6 inches and 6 inches to get the upper bound in square feet. Now, next, I'm going to give ChatGPT a text completion question from the verbal reasoning section of the GRE. Now, in this question type, you will read a short passage with one or more missing blanks and find the best word or words to fill the blanks. And to do well on this question type, you will not only need to have an extensive vocabulary, but your understanding of how to use words in context is paramount. In this example, I know the correct answers to be the answer choices B, D, and I. So let's see what ChatGPT has to say. And as you can see, that was pretty good as ChatGPT nailed it. Now, if you thought the last example was good, the next example will blow your mind. This time, I'm going to give ChatGPT one of the least favorite type of questions on the GRE, which just happens to be the most common question type that you find in the verbal reasoning section. And yes, I'm talking about reading comprehension question. This question format is also very common in many standardized tests and not just on the GRE. Now, the questions here are designed to test your ability to quickly read, understand, and make inferences about an unfamiliar topic. And in this example, we have a passage of about 450 words that asks us to choose the best answer to a given question about the passage. On average, you would have about 90 seconds to answer this question during the GRE, which is never enough time. Here I know the correct answer choice is answer choice E, so let's see what ChatGPT says. And again, it nailed it, which is pretty mind-blowing seeing as this was a difficult question. So far, I've been feeding ChatGPT questions that mostly fall within the moderate to easy difficulty levels on the GRE. But now I'm done giving ChatGPT softball questions. It's time to crank the difficulty level up to a notch, giving ChatGPT questions that the vast majority of GRE test takers get wrong. Now, these are the type of questions that you must answer correctly if you want to score high on the GRE. Now, in this multiple answer quant section example, I know the correct answer is only answer choice C. And here ChatGPT includes answer choice A, which results in a partially correct answer, so that's a strike for ChatGPT. Now here's another tricky quant question that requires out-of-the-box thinking if you want to arrive at a correct answer quickly. And here ChatGPT crushes the question. Skipping ahead to a hard question on the verbal measure, this time we'll be looking at a sentence equivalence question where you need to pick 2 words in the answer choices that best fits a given passage. In this question, the correct answers should be answer choices A and F. And yet again, ChatGPT bombs on this one. So as you can see, as you begin to dial up the difficulty of the GRE questions, ChatGPT starts to underperform. And I'm quite sure the folks at the ETS office, the makers of the GRE, will be happy watching this video. But before I show the results of ChatGPT's performance on a full-length GRE exam, let's talk about some use cases of ChatGPT for those preparing for the GRE. Now, the first case is generating a template to a given GRE issue or argument task on the analytical writing measure. And while ChatGPT can bang out essays like it's nothing, that provides no value to you if you're preparing for the GRE, seeing as you would have to generate your own responses during the analytical writing section of the exam. Thus, the best use case of ChatGPT when preparing for the analytical writing section will be using it to generate a series of templates to different analytical writing issues or argument tasks, which over time of practice could help you develop the skills of quickly attacking any analytical writing task. For example, I could ask ChatGPT, provide a template for an 800-word essay responding to the prompt, students are best served when the universities prepare them for the workforce. And as you can see, it provides a pretty useful template that you can model your responses with. Another use case is generating GRE-like practice questions for different parts of the GRE exam. Now, before you take this route, I must mention that it's still important to exhaust as many official ETS GRE questions that you can get your hands on, such as the questions you can find in the official guide to the GRE book, seen as official GRE questions are the gold standard. A byproduct of this use case will be using ChatGPT to answer GRE questions. But hold on, there is a catch to this, as you've seen that ChatGPT's accuracy could be far from 100%. So this use case will only make sense if you're certain of the correct answer to the problem, which could be from your own knowledge or from a GRE prep resource. And in the instance that ChatGPT arrives at the correct answer, you might learn an alternative solution to the same question. To take things further, ChatGPT could be trained on a data set of real GRE practice questions and answers, and then you can use this model to generate new questions and answers. This way you can be sure that the questions that are generated by ChatGPT are of a similar difficulty level to real GRE questions. The next use case will be generating your own vocabulary flashcard by training ChatGPT over a data set of common words that appear on the GRE exam. Like in this example, I can ask ChatGPT to generate a vocabulary flashcard with 10 difficult words without showing their definitions, then asking for their definitions later to assess my understanding of these words. And to take things a step further, you can ask ChatGPT to use these words in context. Now, it's also important to point out some limitations of ChatGPT, particularly in the quantitative reasoning measure. For example, if you had a geometry question with illustrations, you would have to use words to describe the illustration, which becomes difficult the more complex the illustration is. Another limitation arises with data interpretation questions that have large tables or include charts, bars, and graphs, as at this time, ChatGPT cannot read images or illustrations. Questions that fall into these two categories comprise about 25% of the questions that appear in the quantitative reasoning measure. So as you can see, at this time, ChatGPT is still far away from being a replacement for an instructor-led GRE prep course or even a self-paced course for that matter. Nonetheless, it could be a good supplement to have when practicing GRE questions. And for the moment you've been waiting for, after giving ChatGPT the equivalent of a full-length GRE test with a balanced mixture of easy, moderate, and difficult questions, here's how ChatGPT performed. On the verbal reasoning measure, ChatGPT had an average score of 53%, where it performed the best on sentence equivalence question types and worst in the reading comprehension question types. And as for the quantitative reasoning measure, ChatGPT had an average score of 65%, performing the worst on algebra-related questions. And based on those raw scores, if you were to take the GRE today with ChatGPT, you would have a verbal reasoning score of 152, which would place you at the 52nd percentile of GRE test takers who sat for the GRE in the 3-year period between 2018 to 2021, and a quantitative reasoning score of 153, which would place you at the 44th percentile of GRE test takers in the same period, which I seriously doubt will get you into Harvard anytime soon.